The American political class accepts permanent war as a normal condition. It's not seen as an aberration or failure, but as a requirement. Andrew Bacevich, retired U.S. Army colonel and historian. The United States has been involved in some form of armed conflict for most of its modern history. From its inception through World War II, the Cold War, and today's military involvement in places like Syria, Yemen, Gaza, and Ukraine, as well as the vast array of more than 800 military bases threatening countries such as China, Iran, and Russia, America has rarely been at peace. This continuous engagement in war has led to what many experts call a war economy, a system where military spending is so deeply embedded in the economic and political fabric that the country's prosperity and security policies become intertwined. What does it mean for a nation to operate a war economy? Who profits, and how is this system maintained? To understand this, we need to examine the structure of the U.S. defense budget, the private industries that benefit, and the political forces that keep the gears turning. The modern U.S. war economy began to take shape during World War II, when the federal government partnered with private industry to produce the weapons and supplies needed to defeat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. After the war, rather than demobilizing its military-industrial apparatus, the U.S. expanded it, partly due to the Cold War arms race with the Soviet Union. President Eisenhower, himself a five-star general, warned in his 1961 farewell address of the dangers posed by a military-industrial complex, a vast network of defense contractors, lobbyists, and politicians with a vested interest in continued military spending. Despite Eisenhower's warning, by 2024, the U.S. defense budget exceeded $880 billion, more than the next 10 countries combined. And under Trump, the budget has now surpassed $1 trillion. This enormous sum isn't just for soldiers and tanks. It funds a sprawling network of contractors, weapons developers, cybersecurity firms, intelligence analysts, and logistical support companies. The U.S. war economy functions through a mutually reinforcing loop between government and industry, facilitated by mainstream corporate media. Each year, Congress appropriates hundreds of billions to the Department of Defense. This money is then distributed through contracts to private companies that research, manufacture, and maintain military hardware and services. A key feature of this system is its consistency over time. While other federal programs rise and fall with shifting administrations, defense spending continues to grow regardless of who controls Congress or the White House. One reason is the vast lobbying industry. In 2023 alone, defense contractors spent over $130 million lobbying Congress, a form of legalized bribery, hidden from public scrutiny and democratic control. These companies also fund think tanks that promote hawkish foreign policy and employ retired generals and former government officials. This creates a revolving door between public service and private gain. These war hawks often appear on corporate-owned news programs to generate fear and garner support for war. Most major media outlets are owned by massive conglomerates. Comcast owns NBC, Disney owns ABC, and so on. These parent companies have vested interests in defense contractors or benefit indirectly from military spending. They're unlikely to promote narratives that undermine their own profits. And when war is framed as a national crisis, viewership and ad revenue increase. Fear sells, and perpetual conflict provides a steady stream of breaking news. At the center of the war economy are 5 major defense contractors. Lockheed Martin, makers of the F-35 fighter jet, now a $1.7 trillion project. Raytheon Technologies, specializing in missile systems and electronics. Northrop Grumman, developers of nukes and surveillance drones. General Dynamics, known for tanks, submarines, and IT services. Boeing Defense, producers of military aircraft and space systems. These companies earn billions annually, not just through contracts, but through maintenance, software updates, and long-term service agreements. Beyond weapons manufacturers, there's a booming market for private military contractors. Firms like Academy, formerly Blackwater, DynCorp, and Triple Canopy provide security, logistics, and even armed personnel to support U.S. missions abroad. During the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, these contractors sometimes outnumbered U.S. troops. They operate largely outside the purview of democratic institutions, virtually unaccountable to the public. International arms sales provide yet another revenue stream for the U.S. war economy. The United States is the world's largest exporter of military equipment, supplying arms to more than 103 countries around the world, from Southeast Asia to the Middle East, Latin America to Eastern Europe. These weapons often go to regimes with troubling human rights records, but the sales are justified under the guise of national security or regional stability. 2 of the most prominent recipients in recent years have been Israel and Ukraine. Israel receives over $3.8 billion in U.S. military aid annually, including advanced missile defense systems like the Iron Dome, precision-guided munitions, and fighter jets. These weapons have played a central role in Israel's ongoing military operations in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. Ukraine has received over $75 billion in U.S. military aid since the 2022 Russian invasion, including tanks, drones, artillery, and long-range missile systems. American defense contractors have reaped enormous profits from these rapid shipments, with many deals bypassing congressional oversight under the guise of emergency authorizations. These exports lock client states into long-term maintenance and training agreements, ensuring a continuous revenue stream for American contractors, regardless of shifting geopolitical dynamics. This growing global footprint creates deeper economic dependencies at home. Wall Street plays a major role. Defense stocks are seen as safe investments, stable and recession-proof. When global instability rises, or even the fear of instability, their value increases. Meanwhile, U.S. infrastructure, education, and public health are in freefall. Roads, bridges, and transit systems are neglected. Many cities still use 100-year-old water systems, like in Flint, Michigan, causing lead poisoning. High-speed rail, common in China, is virtually non-existent in the U.S. School teachers are underpaid. Many schools lack basic supplies, especially in rural and inner-city districts. U.S. healthcare ranks near the bottom among industrialized nations in infant mortality, life expectancy, and chronic illness. While over $1 trillion feeds a military machine, healthcare remains a privilege, not a right. Meanwhile, militarism becomes normalized. Media glorifies warfare. Americans grow up with war as a backdrop, desensitized to violence, genocide, and mass shootings. The U.S. war economy is not simply a consequence of global instability. It is a system with deep historical roots, powerful beneficiaries, and tragic consequences. From lawmakers to lobbyists, from investors to weapons manufacturers, a small minority profits while the global majority suffers. So the final question is this: can a nation so deeply invested in the machinery of war ever truly pursue peace? And if peace threatens profit, who will advocate for it?